My name's Dr. Gorden Refshauge. I'm a Senior Research Scientist with the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. I want farmers to put their hands on udders and start culling out the ones that are not suitable for future breeding. Assess the animals that are kidded and lost, that are dry and have structural unsoundness. Structural unsound udders should not be remated to bucks. So the value of assessing udders isn't just taking out animals that are no good for breeding, but also about improving the genetics of the herd over time and improving the efficiency of the farm in terms of number of animals run and number of kids weaned. It's the udder that is what the kid is going to survive on in the first 4 to 6 weeks of its life, particularly in the first 3 days after birth. Udder structure is vital to the ability of kids to drink milk, and those kids that don't drink milk aren't going to survive. So a key profit driver for goat production systems is number of kids weaned. Any factor that inhibits the number of kids that are weaned, such as low pregnancy rates, low twinning rates, and low kid survival, is going to be a hindrance. The best time to inspect udders is at marking, and that's because any time the does are in the yard is an opportunity to find those that have poor structure in the udder and the teat. But at marking is when the evidence is most clear, because the does are most likely going to be lactating, and it's when you've got them in the yards. That's the chance to identify these animals. The process of inspecting udders is to have them in a race, ideally, and to put your hands on the udder and feel whether you have an unsound structure there, whether the doe is dry or kidded and lost, which feels different to an udder that is rearing kids, which will be full of milk and turgid when you press in against it. You can feel for udder abnormalities and teat abnormalities. So I would run them into a race. If you couldn't do that, then inspecting them individually as they move through a gate and finding a way to identify that animal is critical. So in this race, I am wetting and drying these does, looking for the udder status, whether they are rearing a kid or not rearing a kid. All these does are scanned in kid. So I have potentially 3 types of udder, which is wet, kidded and lost, or dry. Because we have RFID tags in these animals, I can record all that information against the animal using the wand, which makes the assessment fast and simple and allows me to later on review the data while also having the chance to find out which ones I want to keep or cull at this time or another time in the future. So I'm looking for how much milk might be in the udder and whether there's any structural issues here with these does. So I'll wand the animal. She is a wet, it's not terribly hard to do. I just need to put my hand on the udder and feel those teats to see if there's any structural faults. So if you're ever not sure about whether an animal is rearing a kid or not, it makes a lot of sense to strip the milk out. The milk should look white, like you bought it out of the store, and that's an animal that's rearing. If it is watery or grey or some other colour, then it's not rearing. You can confidently cull it out, but check both teats. Looking for anomalies, which is anything lumpy or mastitis in the udder where there is none. So she's normal. We're looking for extra teats and seeing if they are functional. So there's one functional on the left additional, and on the right, the additional teat is blind. Dry udders are suggestive of an abortive agency. So this doe is dry. She lost her fetuses before giving birth, and it suggests that we've got perhaps an organism that is causing these fetuses to be lost. This is why I look for dry udders when I'm wetting and drying does, not just kidded and lost. I want to know dry versus kidded and lost versus wet. So if the percentage of animals that are dry is more than 5%, then I would suspect an abortive disease organism active in the herd or the flock. So this doe has structural problems. These teats are 5 score, they're very large. A kid is not going to suckle on that as a neonate, a newborn. There's poor attachment, so the udder is hanging down to the ground, it's not held up against the animal. So she's been culled, there's some separation here. There's a lot going wrong with that particular udder. She's not going to rear kids again, we'll remove her from the program. When you identify a doe with an unsound udder, I would strongly recommend identifying that animal. Whether that is an ear tag that denotes udder failure, reproduction failure for that animal, that allows you in the future to identify that animal again visually, or an ear notch, some sort of ear mark that's unique, or to use electronic identification, which gives you the opportunity for lifetime assessment of these animals, which is coming in and is the opportunity as we move forward in the next couple of years.